Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me in the Locher Room on this Thursday, August 4th. I'm Alan Locher. Today, you're going to meet my friend and one of the Young and the Restless's newest cast members, Kelsey Wang. Kelsey joined the cast in March of this year as Allie Nguyen, the granddaughter of Jack Abbott, played by Peter Bergman. Kelsey was born in Beijing, China. She lived in Beijing and Singapore before moving to the United States at the age of 7. She is a graduate of Duke University and attended the Yale School of Drama's YSD Summer Conservatory. Her theater credits include the role of Liuli in the U.S. premiere of Chimerica, at the Studio Theater in Washington, D.C., and the lead role of Daiyu in the Pan Asian Repertory Theater's production of A Dream of Red Pavilions. Her television credits include the recurring role of Daisy Kwan on General Hospital, Netflix's Daredevil, and the dual-language pilot Journey to the East. Kelsey and I go back a few years when we worked together at a company called On Location Tours, a TV and movie tour company in New York City, where she hosted one of our tours. We're going to have a little fun later on and see if she remembers some of her trivia questions, and I'll let her tell you what tour she hosted. Please welcome to the Locher Room, Kelsey Wang. Kelsey!
Hi, Alan. How's it going?
It's going well. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I was telling you this backstage. It is so nice to see a new character come on to a show, like a long running show like Young and the Restless, and to see the fans fall in love almost instantly. I mean, Susan said, "I love that Allie brought a smile to Noah's face." Robin and Ronnie both said she's a breath of fresh air. Mark said one of the best things to happen in Young and the Restless in ages. She's a gem. That's pretty damn good.
That's so lovely. Very, very lovely. And it's been kind of a whirlwind since I joined. Oh gosh, I can't believe it's been almost 4 or 5 months since I joined.
I'm sure your head, has been spinning all this time.
A little bit, for sure. Especially in the first couple weeks, it was crazy. But I was so grateful and just like full of like appreciation to get to work with Peter Bergman, kind of as like my lead-in into the show. He is the most generous and just like such a good person, but such a generous actor as well. So
I bet. And not only, congratulations on the role, but it's a groundbreaking role on the number one daytime drama.
It is in a lot of ways. And this is all, I think, due to Josh, our head writer, Tony, our showrunner, and also CBS, Sony, I think to bring kind of the chemo storyline back, and then, create his daughter, create someone who is, Asian American, but is also an immigrant, I think is a wonderful, different kind of perspective that they're bringing onto the show. And it really does add, to have an Asian American contract player on the Young and the Restless is huge in so many ways. So, just the role itself it's amazing.
All of it, I don't know that we have had many, and maybe even any contract, Asian Americans on a daytime drama. So
yeah, I don't know, since chemo, probably. Yeah.
Wow.
But I think the fans would know better than I do.
They definitely know.
They definitely know. Yeah.
100%. Oh, and we'll get to that. If you already can tell, their knowledge in your short time, that's pretty good.
I know.
Born in China, moved to the U.S. when you were 7. Where did you grow up in the U.S.?
Texas. I've had kind of just like when people ask me where I'm from, it's so crazy because I moved from Beijing to Singapore when I was 2. So I don't actually remember anything about Beijing, even though it's like this amazing city. And then, but I remember some stuff about Singapore, and I definitely remember Texas. I grew up in Dallas, and I know there's a few cast members also from Texas too, on the Young and the Restless. I think Courtney is also from.
And somebody just corrected me, like I knew they would. Ming-Na Wen, which I should have known because I worked on As the World Turns.
That's right.
And I loved watching Ming-Na on the show. So forgive me, Ming-Na. I loved Ming-Na.
She was amazing. I actually, for my research, I actually looked up some of her clips. And she did 3 years and was amazing on the show. And it was
She
great
was
it was also great to see her as an actress grow so much to who she is now.
right. Just, watch that and take that in,
It was one
because
of her first roles, and then to see
yes,
who she is now is amazing.
to see the possibilities for yourself through her
Mhm.
lens. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Amazing. What drew you to acting?
I think it was, I think growing up kind of as a immigrant, I always just felt a little different. And I had this big imagination. And I could never really, I don't know, I just never really felt like I belonged or fit in to one environment exactly. But it was this big imagination, and I kind of felt like in a way in my life I was playing different characters, like whether I was in Texas and then I went to Indiana for boarding school when I was 14 by
Oh,
myself.
wow.
Crazy. And then I went up to New York. And so all along the way I just felt like in a way I was playing different characters to kind of fit in. And I was like, when I was in high school, I did my first play, and the school gave me this amazing scholarship to go to Yale for a summer. And that was where I went to Yale's drama school program in the summer. And that was just where for 6 weeks, I just got to really learn acting for the first time, and I loved it.
What stands out from that experience?
Um, I think for me, it was the first time that I really got to do something for me. It was acting was the first thing I loved, and I think, with the Asian American experience, I think there's a lot of expectations and hopes from the parents that gets very internalized inside me, right? Like, because they struggled so much to bring me here, like there was high expectations of how I would do academically in life, and then all of a sudden I had this little passionate interest that was nowhere near kind of the roadmap that they wanted. But I loved it, and I couldn't let it go. And the scholarship afforded me an opportunity to just do something purely that I loved.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah.
That's interesting, because I've definitely heard that about immigrant parents, about Asian parents and their expectations. Do you remember that conversation with mom and dad about, I really want to do this for a living?
It was so funny because kind of a good story is that I went to Duke, and then I really, really wanted to just learn more about theater and performing. So I actually applied to Tisch as a transfer my freshman year to go my sophomore year. And only like a few kids get in as a transfer. And I got in. It was wild. And I did it all by myself. And then the acceptance letter came to my mom. And
Oh,
this is a crazy story. She actually, like, I love her so much, just to preface it, but she actually hid the acceptance letter for weeks. And like, I came home that summer, I was like, there was something off about her, and I didn't know what it was. And then I remember that day so vividly. She was like chopping vegetables, and you could tell there was something like clearly on her mind. And then she was like, "Oh my gosh, Kelsey!" I think she started crying, and she was like, I am so sorry." And then she pulled out this acceptance letter to Tish that had been waiting for, and I was like, "Oh, I guess it just never happened." So that just shows you kind of like there was definitely resistance from the parents at
yeah.
the beginning, and there was a lot of struggling, especially as I got into like I really actually pursued this professionally in my mid-20s, so much later than like I would say most actors. And like I think we've gotten to a really amazing point. They're so supportive now, but at the beginning, they were just like, "Are you crazy? There's no one that looks like you on TV. No one. How are you gonna support yourself? Because you have no backup from us. Like there's no like there's no
Yeah.
cushion to be on." So
They were being practical, but
for sure, they wanted to protect me. They loved
yeah.
me, wanted to protect me. That was it was not, anything out of kind of harm or negativity.
Well, and seeing, you land, a one-of-a-kind contract role, it's got to be a
Yeah, in the past few years, I think it was just over, I think they've also gotten older and they've gotten kind of more westernized in many ways. And I think it's seeing me just coming back repeatedly over the years. It was something that I could not let go. I've had many different lives and I've done kind of very different things. One of the things we'll talk about is us working at the same company, right?
Yeah.
Once upon a time ago, but every couple of, like, I would come back to acting, and then at some point I think they were just, they're so proud now and they're so supportive, but it was just kind of seeing that it was just something I loved, no matter, it wasn't something I could grow out of.
You emanated it. I have to read. Rose says, hiding the letter, so soap opera style.
I know, right?
and Rose says, it feels like acting is always used for money. It's refreshing to find actors who love what they do more than what comes from doing it, payment or the awards.
Yeah, I think that's really, it was the number one thing that I had to kind of like let go of. I think I read this great interview with Constance Wu too, when she was like in her 30s, and she still hasn't like broken out into Fresh Off the Boat. But and she was saying, she was like, I decided that I'll be okay with waitressing for the rest of my life, because I wanted to do acting, because I loved it so much. And so I think as an artist, you really have to just let it go. And if you're lucky enough to get a contract role, amazing. But I think if your heart is in a pure place about it, it does help. It makes it easier.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There's a lot of struggling.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's why you had the job in New York that we'll get to.
That's right.
Who are some of your mentors or acting role models?
Oh gosh. I think, some of my mentors, I think this is a really great question. I think, starting out, I think I had one acting teacher at Yale summer school who was like, hey, you actually, I see something in you. And that was kind of the first moment that I was like, oh, wow, if someone kind of who's doing this, he was a director in New York and also like a professor at Yale, could say that, maybe I could just keep going with this. And I think I also in New York when I decided to do it professionally, I went to this program called Maggie Flanagan out in New York. And that was really, really influential for me. My teacher, Charlie Sandlin, was amazing and just inspiring people to become artists, to read theater, to go watch theater. And then, like some of the plays I saw, Skylight out in Broadway. I also saw, what was that Mark Strong play with I'm in Hope? It was The View from the Bridge. There were so many great kind of just art going on in New York, and to get inspired from that. And then I think, actors, like I think Constance Wu is amazing, just from an artistic perspective. And also she's really like a trailblazing Asian American. I think Michelle Yeoh is also amazing and such a role model. And of course, Mina. So it's great to see Asian American actresses kind of blazing that path. And I think there's more and more as kind of the industry opens up.
Absolutely. I mean, just those three. I mean, you look at what Ming Na's done in the last few years. I mean,
I know it's incredible.
It really is incredible. The professor at Yale, do you know if he's still teaching?
I've not checked in. I think he was more of a freelance. Because he had a whole directing career in New York at the same time. So he was going back and forth. And his name was Patton. He taught our essential acting class. And it was the first time I did this 10-minute scene, and I kind of fell in love with it, with like his guidance. So.
And he noticed, he encouraged.
He encouraged someone who at that time was, there were not many Asian American actors at all. It was like Lucy Liu, and Mina really? And then, but it's a different world now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go to Genoa City. What do you remember about your first audition?
First audition. It was this role actually auditioned early. I auditioned last year in November, end of November, I think. Yeah.
Ah.
So it was a long time before. I think most roles only have like a few weeks before they start to shoot. I think because of the holidays. So I auditioned like when I got my first audition, it was late November.
Was it for Allie in November?
Yes, it was always Allie.
Okay.
Her name was always Allie, and it was a scene with my grandfather, and then a scene with this mysterious guy who was really nice at a bar. And so now looking back, you're like, oh yeah, of course it was like with Peter Bergman and with Rory. And I think I can say this now because I couldn't say it before, but I screen tested with Peter and Rory. So that was a little bit of a secret that we had kept for the first few months. But it was great. They were both so lovely. I sent in the audition just like any other audition. And then it kind of just snowballed really fast. And because of COVID, we came in for the screen test. I signed a test deal, which in actor terms is basically you figure out kind of your contract. And then they had 5 girls come in for the screen test. And it's scary. If people want to know about this, it's very interesting. Like you go into like a theater room here in a studio. It's literally like a stage, and then you have seats going up like that. And then, I mean, they have lights, camera, and then you don't know who's sitting. I mean, you have the network executives, Sony, Tony, of course, Josh is there, and then. So of course you try to blank all of that out. And I just remember Nancy, who's the casting director, was so lovely. And I was the last, we rehearsed once, and then she was just like, hey, I see this really nice strength in you. That's like, and we fine tuned it. And then we kind of played the scenes back and forth with the actors who came in with Peter and Rory. And then there was guidance from, the directors, from Tony. And I just, when I read with Peter, it did feel like Peter was the first person that I read with. It just felt, there was something very natural about it. And so I guess you would call it chemistry. There was something very natural. He's also a phenomenal actor.
Phenomenal.
And so I'm sure every actress was like, oh, yes.
Did you have any idea of, his
yes, I knew.
phenomenalness and who?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when he there is such a stage presence about him, but also such a niceness. Like he puts you at ease, but when he wants, it's like Peter Bergman in real life kind of looks like, like an old Hollywood movie star. He looks like James Bond, like, and yes. So, and he's like in a suit, and it's just like, and then you're just like, you feel the presence, like the star presence, and you're just like, but then he also as an actor gives you so much. And then so I was definitely a little bit, I called my manager I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. I was just like, he's so amazing and so nice. And then we did it several times. And then of course with Rory too, with Rory, it's different. It was much more about, I don't know how much I can say because it has to do.
It's a different chemistry that they're looking for. Yeah, they're looking for a different chemistry for sure.
Yeah. So and I think I got the role a couple of days later. And it was. Where were you?
What'd you do?
So it was interesting. It was there were emails going kind of back and forth between the casting director and my manager all weekend. And then my manager was like, oh, hey, they want you to come in to do a work session with Rory. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then she was like, oh, but you should call me first. And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. And then she kept delaying the call. She was like, hang on. I got a call. And I was like, why can't you just tell me the date and time I'm supposed to go? Because I thought there was another like callback session. And then she was like, okay, I'm ready now. It was because she wanted to get my whole team on the phone, which was like, and they were like, it was funny because I was totally not expecting it, because for me, in my mind, I was like, oh, there's another callback. Like Tony wants us to come in and do another work session. So I was like, and so I just picked up that phone and I was like, okay, so when is it? Where do I show up tomorrow? Is there new sides? And she was like, hold on, I have to get your lawyer on the line. And then that's when I knew. Usually they don't do like the full team call unless, and then I was like, wait, but that's not possible. I haven't done this work session yet. And they were like, no, you got it already. And they want you to come in to then work with him. And so it was, my manager was so excited. I was so excited. It was funny because I had, this was a big win because a few months ago, I actually was like, I was, selected for the lead of a Netflix project, and then it went away. And so a few months later to get that call with the contract in hand was a big, big win. And my manager was so excited. I couldn't believe it because I loved this character, and who she is matched like my background so well as well.
Describe that. What was it from what you had learned about Allie?
Allie, the character description of Allie was that she was, a chemist. She was very, very smart. She was kind. She was an immigrant. She was with her dad, and she came to live in LA from Vietnam. And I think just having that kind of first generation experience, and then she also is super ambitious, determined, independent. She really has her own kind of like, in a way, she doesn't need the Abbotts, which I think is amazing. She chose to come to the Abbotts because she wanted to learn more about her grandfather, but she doesn't need them from a material standpoint, in terms of academic or career standpoint. I think it matched for me, I applied to a scholarship to a boarding school by myself when I was 14, and I win, and I got it. And that kind of independence, and just like, I know so much about it. And in a way, it's strength too, to just like pursue. It was the American dream in a lot of ways, to come here and to pursue what you put yourself through hard work, through determination, and kind of making something out of yourself. And I understand that in my core. And I think that's Allie in a lot of ways, right? Like, sure, she's working at Jabot right now, but before her dad died, she had a plan, and she was on it.
I'm just hearing Jabot.
Yeah.
I had Beth Maitland on a little while ago.
Of course. Uh-huh.
And she mentioned Jabot. My mom grew up on the CBS, or my mom watched the CBS, so they were always on for me. I didn't watch Young and the Restless regularly, but the Abbotts I grew up with. I mean, Tracy and Jack and Ashley, was really when I was, so Jabot just always makes me smile hearing that name. But Beth and Peter and Eileen, one of the fans just said Ms. Wang's scenes with Eileen were exceptional. I would love to see a massive argument or fight if the three witches of Genoa City get out of hand. But talk about, because I know Beth said that you and she have talked a lot, and I'm sure you and Peter, Eileen, just in this short time from joining in March, what do you think you've learned from those well-established Abbotts?
Yeah, first of all, they're all incredible actors. So the fact that I get to do scenes with them is like, they pull me up, definitely. They're so incredible, each of them. Eileen, Peter, they're all just pros. But I will say that I think each of them, I have different relationships with each of them. Peter was kind of my first way into the show, and now I've worked a lot with Beth and Eileen, and especially with Beth. Beth and I have sat in her dressing room. We have had some very personal conversations, and just gotten to really know each other as people. And I think, there were tears, there were laughter. Like I think she and I share. There is a very special bond there, and I think in the future episodes you'll see that translate so much to the screen. She's just such a lovely person. And I think, working with Eileen, that scene with Eileen is great because she's trying to dig information. All three of them, Diane, Phyllis, Ashley's trying to get information out of me, right? And I think you're going to see that more and more coming from Allie, is that, like, she's here as the new person. She wants to be nice to everyone. She wants to be sweet because it's, how else is she going to survive this whole new family, right?
Yeah.
But just like who I am, there's a real strength underneath, and there is some real fire if you cross her. So you're going to see that more and more. And I think the big thing is don't underestimate Allie, even though she is, she's very lovely to the people who are nice to her. But I think it'll be interesting in the future episodes to see what's going on with Diane, and to see, because Diane tried to manipulate her a couple weeks ago, and she was like, no, I'm not going to do this.
It isn't a soap if someone doesn't try to manipulate you.
Of course. And who better than Jack's granddaughter, right? To try to, like, manipulate for information.
Absolutely. Wendy was asking, have you seen any of Philip Moon's work as Chemo?
I have. I tried to look up as many clips as I could on YouTube. Unfortunately, you can't watch the old episodes, I feel like, online. I tried to look for it, but I've watched what I can find with Mary Jo Mason. I think his scenes with her and his scenes with Peter, there were a few on YouTube. So I definitely was able to watch a little bit and use that for my own kind of.
It is amazing what you can find on YouTube.
I don't know how the fans have gotten it. But yeah, the clips are there if you want to watch it.
It really is. I mean, have you gone to, you should go and watch some Tracy and
I have, because of their
Ashley
anniversary episode.
Yeah.
Just for research, I watched, when I came on the show, I watched Peter's scenes with Michelle, like the old Jack, Phyllis, and Diane scenes. Wow. I watched the great Eileen Davidson with Eric Braeden, Ashley and Victor scenes, and I watched Beth scenes with Lauren Bergman.
Yeah.
So
with Tracy Bergman.
It really has two names to me. It's like their character name and what's their actor name.
It's a lot to learn for a show that's been on that long.
At the beginning, because, like, I watched the show prior to starting, and so I knew everyone by their character names, but then I didn't figure out everyone's actor names, and so it took a second for sure.
It takes all of us.
Yeah,
it takes all of us. Well, what has it been like working with Rory? And like I told you, many fans, not just one fan, have mentioned how it's nice that Allie has put a smile on his face.
Yes, I think that is Allie and Noah is, to me, it has a very special place in my heart, because I think it represents that pure young love that we all experience kind of once in our life. I think it's there's something so, I think, like, pristine about it, because it's, I think it's them falling in love without a lot of, it's weird on a soap, but it's without a lot of conflict. It's just two people. It's kind of a Romeo and Juliet dynamic, like, of course you've got the families, right? You've got the Abbotts and the Newmans, which there's going to be conflict, and there always is conflict, right? But it's just two young people who, I think, and, there's stuff with, his ex, which sounded very tumultuous, right? And then he's able to come into this relationship with a girl who doesn't have a lot of baggage, and is like a normal, two people who are like normal, same people who just really like each other. And I think that to me, to be able to kind of portray a story where you see that pure love, I think it really resonates with audiences in a lot of ways. But, of course, with it being the Abbotts and the Newmans, there will be conflict in the future. Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the fans, Jerry, just said, conflict will come.
Oh, yes.
Has to be interesting. Since March, it's a short time, but
yeah,
are there favorite shows, scenes, moments for you?
There are. I think my first scenes with Peter, I loved those scenes working with him. I love, honestly, any scenes with, and there's some upcoming scenes with Beth that are great, in my opinion. And then I think kind of, oh gosh, what am I thinking about? There's this one scene that I really liked, which was with Susan Walters, where she is trying to kind of inquire. I don't know if the audience got it. I thought those two scenes were hilarious, where she comes to the Abbott house and there's only Allie, and she's trying to manipulate Allie to give her more information. And Allie's just like, I have to go. I don't really know Phyllis. I have to go. And she's just like, Diane's just sitting there rambling on, and like Allie's like, stop trying to do this, sees through it, and wants to leave. So I love that. And I love the scene with Eileen where with Ashley, where, I think that's where Allie, it's a pivotal scene where Allie really makes a stand for herself and it's like, hey, like, I know I seem like this really nice person, but don't mess with me. And I think I'm really excited to show more and more of that coming up. And of course, just every scene with Rory. Let me tell you something about Rory Gibson. He is the biggest, nicest gentleman guy ever. And just like, he makes you feel as a woman, we have some steamy scenes coming up, and it's he makes me feel so safe, and it's not something as an actress you get all the time. And
right, and it's not something to take lightly either, when especially this is all new to you.
New.
Yeah. Have to be that vulnerable with basically, somebody you've known since March is not easy. Yeah.
And I think with him, it's, like, we have gotten comfortable with each other as well. And I think that will translate nicely onto the screen as we keep shooting some stuff.
Well, as I said, I can tell from, reading, the fans definitely are enjoying it. Speaking of that, social media, when you talk to Peter and Eileen and Beth, when they started, they would get snail mail to get reaction. For you as a newcomer, are you reading stuff? Is it overwhelming? What's it been like, seeing the reaction sort of in real time?
Yeah, it's funny because there is I think there's a lot of sites with people reacting if you want to see it. I think at the beginning, I definitely looked a little bit. I was told not to look by Peter Bergman. Peter Bergman was like, you should be blissfully unaware, because don't play to the fans, because it's just as an artist, you're supposed to do your vision of what what the writers are telling you to do, what the directors are telling you to do, and what you want to do, right? And of course, with a TV show, right? We're shooting what, 5 weeks ahead, right? So
right, something like, yeah.
So you kind of get instantaneous feedback, and I looked a little bit at the beginning, and I will say that I don't look at all anymore, and that's something that I've had a lot of people just be like, I think we all have a negativity bias, and you can read 10 positive comments and you can have one negative comment, and that we're all human, we're artists, we're super sensitive. And I think people, there are some negative people.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand. I'm not an artist.
Yeah.
I've hosted this show for 2.5 years, and I have focused on those negatives. I understand, it sticks it's just, I think, our human psyche that it
Yeah.
sticks, because there are lovely people who watch this and are thankful that I have done this. But it is in our own brains for some reason,
Oh yeah.
the mechanics of our brain,
Yeah.
Freud could tell us
We
why.
have this negative self-bias. We definitely just, it's natural in humans to have this negative self-bias. And like, like that one comment stays with you all day. And at first I was like, oh, I'm gonna use it for feedback to work on my, but then I was just like, I truly believe your attention is your most valuable resource, like where you put your attention. And I think if you let someone else dictate your self-worth, it's a losing game, right? Your self-worth can be 100% dictated by you and your belief in yourself and no one else. And like, and also like, what is your artistic vision of the character, right? It should not be, there's a million opinions out there, and
100%. It's just like, you and I going to a movie, we're going to have a difference of opinion.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean yours is right and doesn't mean mine is. Tim was asking, are you a by the script or have you improv'd some?
So it's interesting because the actors are all different on this show. Some people are looser because they know their characters so well, and some people are very by the line. I will say for me, I definitely am very prepared. So I know all of my lines, but I think in the moment, if you're thinking about the lines, it's not great. So naturally, I just think when you're speaking naturally, there are things you add in a little bit here and there, but I think overall I'm pretty close to the script.
Are you finding that, because I have worked in daytime, I know the amount of dialogue you get.
Yes.
Was that overwhelming when you first, had to memorize it all?
I think I think one of the biggest things is that like, it was overwhelming because I was trying to develop the character. So it wasn't just knowing the lines, but it was like, what do you want to do with her? And then it's like, I can come in with my ideas, and then the director is coming in with his ideas, and the writer is coming in with his ideas, right? So like, it was not only getting all the lines down, but it was like, how am I like making choices to create this character that I want to create with, the creative team, of course.
And, I didn't even think of this, but it is sort of a blessing too, to, some actors come in and are replacing other actors.
Oh, yes,
you are creating from the outset who she is from top to bottom.
I have to give a few call outs. I think Owen was my first director in my first couple episodes. And it really was, like he pulled me, he was like, Owen and Steven, Steven's one of the other directors, was like, hey, this is new because you're totally setting this character. And we are here to help you. And, Josh has an idea too, right, of like who he wants it to be. But it's a team's effort to create a new character versus, Allison came in and there was a very strong idea of who Summer was, right? In a way, like Michael Miller too, there was a very strong idea of who Kyle is. And for them, it's having less room. It's more putting themselves into a structure that was already there. Whereas I had kind of a free-for-all. So very different processes.
I love that. Speaking again about Peter and Beth and my God, Michelle and Tracy Bergman and all of these people, this is a profession you said from the get-go you love. What is it like to see people, at the top of their game, but have a job for 40, 20, 30, 40? I mean, does it give you, renewed, life in this, what the possibilities are?
I mean, in a way, I like it's mind blowing to think about it. Like a 40th anniversary, like I mean, that's the dream, I think, of any actor, right? Is to be able to work like steadily for 40 years. It's such, I mean, I think the soaps are such a gift to these actors, and talking to each of them, I know they appreciate it so much too. And like it's such a, there's such legacy characters. And also I think the soaps influence culture. You know, like Ashley Abbott was like a very important cultural moment. And I think it's I mean, to have that kind of career is amazing, right?
Yeah.
And just being able to retire on acting. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
know it is something. It's a beautiful thing to see, and without the fans, none of this would be here.
That's right. That's right. It all goes back to the fans.
It really does.
I have
You know,
so many like Instagram like notes. I think, and you know, everyone has always been like a lot of notes, and like I've been watching this show since I was 5 with my mom, and now I watch it still with my mom, and I'm 40, and it's like people have watched it from the very beginning.
there is nothing like the connection that is made between families, and also when these shows began, it was 3 networks, so it's such a different time, and
Yeah.
but it is a connection that won't ever come again if these really ever go away, and I hope they don't ever go away, because they bring such comfort to people around the world.
Yep. And like, like I was talking to Sharon, like a lot of people grew up with Sharon. Like
I
Sharon,
grew up with Sharon on As the World Turns. I watched Sharon when she was on As the World Turns.
yeah, and it's Sharon, Nick, people love them because I think when they were teenagers, it was Sharon and Nick. And now
Correct.
to see them reunited, it would be, I think, a dream for so many people.
For the fans, you're not kidding. You're not kidding.
Shrek. Oh yes.
We talk about this role being special, and one of few in the Asian community to have contract roles. There's such a rise in hate as a Jewish person, in anti-Semitism, in the AAPI community. Have you yourself faced challenges?
I think, it's funny. I think, I don't mean it funny in any
Right.
like lighthearted way. I am blessed to be in a younger generation where there's not a lot of outright racism. Sure, when I was little, I experienced like Ching Chong, but I would just say mainly that's people who are very ignorant, and it does not represent the large majority of, I think, people in this lovely country. And I've only, like in Texas, we have had such generous neighbor. We when we first moved here, like we really experienced only the most generous people. Like when our car broke down on our like second week here, like this random family just picked us up. Like Texas is like, there's a very amazing Southern hospitality and generosity there too. But I think what has happened more as I kind of gone through life is there's little kind of micro aggressions and stereotyping. I think that's the most harmful, is that I think there's still a lot of stereotypes about Asians. And I think that can lead to, in a way, I think that can lead to actually harmful, just like AAPIs, like Asian Americans not being able to like break class ceilings, right? Asian Americans not being able to get lead roles in TV shows and films, because I think the stereotypes is like, hey, they can only be like software engineers. They're really smart, but that's all there is about them. Or, like they don't have really colorful personalities, I have to fight that more than anything else.
Interesting. And that's like, being gay, gay, or, in the 70s and 80s, they played murderers and,
that's right.
Over the top things. So,
over the top things, right? And
yeah.
And that's actually why, that's like, besides me loving acting, that's actually why I want to be an actress, is that like, and I'm still working on my craft. But in a way, I hope to show there's such a there's such a liveliness about like the Asian American community. You know, like we have so many dynamics and so much to offer besides being smart. And there's nothing wrong with being smart either, but like that's the different stuff I want to bring on. It's like there's so many different dimensions, and it's already happening. But like I remember like when I was auditioning like a few years ago, but I don't know if you guys are uh like see this. It's like the girl with the blue hair. You guys should look this up. They constantly auditioned Asian Americans as because they wanted to as this like tough rebellious with the blue hair, but it was like it was still putting them in like an other category on TV. And I think the lovely thing about this role, Allie, is that she's not treated as an other.
She's an Abbott, which is
Abbott, which is so amazing.
That correct, and that's where I really applaud everybody involved at Young and the Restless for doing that. Sadly, our last president calling the virus a particular name.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so much.
It generated. There was an actress I worked with on Guiding Light who has adopted I think she's just turned sweet 16, but she was attacked at a Lowe's home store because of those words that are used.
Racially profiled. It's happening more and more, and it's.
But that's why what you are doing in Young and the Restless, by really making you an Abbott and just not seen as other, just part of the family.
And that I get a romance storyline. No, but I'm treated as a heroine. I think that it's huge, and it should be pointed out that I'm treated like Allie Nguyen is a heroine, and it gets a full. I think it's hard to understand, but a lot of POC characters don't get that full romance storyline. Don't like, and she does, and she. I'm gonna get very. I think it's phenomenal what they're doing in this, and they're treating her as a real heroine. And not just as like an other, which is so big. I think
you're making me cry, Kels. Yeah, it really. Today we have to be, to be thankful for. Actually, I hate that we have to be thankful, but I mentioned I'm Jewish, I'm gay, I'm seen as other in two different ways.
Yeah.
And that it's great to be grateful. You are really making a difference, and having little girls who are now watching Young and the Restless with their mother to see somebody who looks like them is you're making an impact that you won't probably know for decades.
Yeah.
Because of this character and her being a heroine.
Yeah, it's I'm very grateful.
Well, that let's pivot and smile. So I said it in the introduction. Kelsey and I met many years ago when I worked for On Location Tours. On Location Tours is a TV and movie tour company. Kelsey used to host a 3.5-hour bus tour that would take fans all over New York City and show them what, Kelsey?
Of New York City and Gossip Girl. It was so ridiculous.
Kelsey was a Gossip Girl sites tour guide, literally taking.
Yeah, let me explain
fans. This. Yes, you go ahead.
I took a bus of 50, usually it's teenage girls from all over the world, throughout New York City, where I would show them sites and play clips of Gossip Girl at the same time. So they got to see exactly the moment, like the school, for example. And then they got to see the school in real life right outside the bus. And people just went nuts for it. I mean, you have no idea, like this show, like Gossip Girl created such a cultural moment, and people like it blew their minds to see the school, the Empire Hotel, where Chuck Bass like bought that hotel, and like all of these spots.
And you weren't kidding. They came from all over the world, and they didn't just come once. We had people come like from Australia 2 and 3 times. I mean, it really, as Rose just said, 3 hours, script or improv. It was combination.
There was, you know, kind of script, but then each tour guide, I mean, we had to play. I mean, we like, you know, I wore a little sweater tied around my neck. I mean, we were in, and then you ended the tour with XOXO, you know, you love me. They just went nuts. It was, you know, people love, I mean, television, it's the amazing thing about Hollywood. It creates, I mean, it goes everywhere.
Yeah, I basically said for on-location tours, everybody, no matter where you are in the world, your first glimpse of New York City is through the television shows and movies you watch. And it draws everybody to the Big Apple. I mean, they have a superhero tour. They have a Mrs. Maisel tour. I mean, Sex and the City tour has been running for over 20 years. You know, and I didn't realize Kelsey just told me she wanted to be a Sex and the City guide.
Well, I interviewed to be a Sex and the City guide. And this was when I was right out of college. And the owner of the company, we were just talking about this with Ellen, and she was like, you're too young, but we have a Gossip Girl tour that you'd be perfect for. Want to lead 50 teenage girls through New York City? And I was like, it was a lot. I mean,
what stands out, you know, from that? Like, what do you remember most about hosting?
Was that it was this, I mean, I loved it because it was, I mean, going to New York, I think, was the dream of so many people. I mean, people came from Australia, England, Japan on that tour. And it was like their favorite activity that these girls got to do in New York City. It was like a dream fulfilled in so many ways that they got to see. And then some people dressed up. You could buy headbands at Bendel's. Like, in a way, it was like wish fulfillment to the 10th degree for these girls. And it was like a fantasy. And they loved it. They loved learning behind the scenes trivia about the actors.
You just reminded me. We had many, I don't want to just say Asian, but it could have been other foreign tourists who didn't speak a stitch of English.
Of English.
Of English. And they came to see where
and they still loved it.
Yeah.
I think it was also, we had those visual clips where they could, I mean, these girls could recite the lines. I mean, think about who goes on the top. They could recite the lines of each episode and tell you like which episode that came from. But they just they also wanted to know about my life in New York. I think New York is something so special for so many people. And it was just lovely meeting people who were so excited in a way, and this was like their passion. So it was fun. It was a good time. It also was exhausting. It was like a 3-hour show because you had to make them laugh. You had to get them super pumped, and they were pumped. It was a 3-hour show.
Absolutely, and it was good money for people, you know, living in New York. It was
perfect for actors because I did 3 tours a week, and then made enough that, I mean, I was a struggling actress, but I also did the Central Park tours, but, you know, it was like 15 hours a week, and then I could be in school and I could do a bunch of other things. And I made enough to survive. I think what the company did for actors, it was the perfect fit because she got people who were already naturally kind of, you know, performers, and then people who liked Gossip Girl to come on and do this. And at the same time, it really helped actors because it gave them a job where they could work not that much and at the same time still make enough to survive. So it was great.
I love that.
Yeah. And I know for comedians, there were quite a few comedians that on location tour was also higher. They tested out their jokes on the
God. I don't know. Do you know Amadeo? Did you know Amadeo?
What was his name? It was Max Brand.
Max Brand. Yeah, I love Max Brand.
Yeah. He
Oh
did.
my God, I would love to. I have to look where Max is. I'm gonna text him after this. I love that.
I do recommend doing this if you guys ever go, doing the Central Park walking tour that On Location Tours has. It's fabulous. It's a movie. So many films and TV shows have shot in Central Park, and the On Location tour, it's like 2 hours. It takes you through a lot of the park, and also you have these amazing comedians making jokes the whole way through.
And Gossip Girl was filmed in the park.
That's right, Gossip Girl, where they got married. Chuck and Blair got married.
There you go. What's the name of Serena and Blair's private school?
Constance Billards, of course. Okay, I forget, even though it's been 5 years.
That is, I love that. I love that. I love that. Do you watch a lot of TV?
I do and I don't. I have been pretty busy with the show lately that I haven't watched a lot of TV. But I love movies and I love television shows. And so there's some really great stuff.
What have you recently binged?
I have watched The White Lotus, which is very good. I want to watch Yellow Jackets. I haven't watched that yet.
Really good. The White Lotus, I worked with Armand. He was on Guiding Light.
No way.
The host of the hotel, you know,
I think he got nominated for Emmy.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. He's in Physical right now on Apple TV Plus with Rose Byrne, which is pretty good.
I've watched Ted Lasso. Loved Ted Lasso.
We need Ted Lasso in the world.
We need Ted Lasso. Just like that show was something that was so needed during the pandemic.
Correct. Yeah, we need that kind of love in the world, you know?
Just like goodness. Goodness.
100%. What are you looking forward to on Y&R? I know you can't say much.
I wish I can tell you something, Alan. I think it'll be interesting. I think let's put it this way. I think, Noah and Allie, they are in this pure relationship, but I think both of us have pasts, and so it will be very interesting. I know the audience has a lot of questions about Allie's past. So do I.
I'm sure you do.
I don't know as much either.
I'm sure you do. I think I've read people speculating.
Yeah.
There will be a dark side.
Yeah.
That you're really nice now, but you're gonna let it out soon.
What it's worth, I don't think there is a Diane connection. I know everyone is like thinking or hoping there's a Diane connection. I don't think there's a Diane connection. I do think there's something with the mom for sure. It's like, but why is she in bad graces with her mom, right? So she's definitely made a few mistakes, I think, in the past, and there will be some secrets that are coming out. And so does Noah. I don't want to just say me. But it wouldn't be a soap character if she was just like super clean, right? Like, so like they're, but I don't think she's trying to rip off the Abbotts either. Like, I don't think she's, but who knows? I don't know the script. It could go as an actress.
You never know. Young and the Restless is going to be celebrating
Josh Griffith. There's lots
50 years. 50 years is coming up. Yeah. And I hear it's going to focus quite a bit on the Abbotts. So
the Abbotts and the Newmans and the Chancellors and the Winters.
There's a lot.
I think the last note, Alan, I think it's amazing, right? Because it's the 50th anniversary, and like in a way, Allie and Noah represents the third generation, right? Like, and I think that's the wonderful thing about the soaps, right? Is that as the viewers watch it go through the years, it's one generation to the next generation. And it's all about family at the end of the day.
That's what connects us all.
Absolutely.
What connects us in our real lives, what's connecting all of these fans who are tuning into you today, because you are a part of that Abbott family and that Genoa City family that they've watched. Many people here, I am sure, I was reading, they've watched from day one, So
Yeah.
it really is, I'm sure you had no clue of that the depth of.
Now it's wonderful to discover. I mean, the rich
Yeah.
legacy, but also like how much the fans love and support, and how much they know. They know Brad Carlton, like all these characters, right? Like how much they know and how much they care about it. It's why the show is still, like so rich today. It's because the fans care. Yeah.
Kelsey, it is so good to see you. Thank you so much for doing this. I want to take a quick picture of us. I'm going to count us down, and
everyone, Alan was my old one. So
it's
so crazy.
It is. I love that. And I love that it was Georgette. Was it Georgette? Yeah, I think she sent me a note. She had seen it online that you got the job.
It's so funny.
And that's when I sent you the email. All right, ready? 1, 2, and 3. Let's make sure we're smiling. We are. It was Georgette who, I think sent me a text saying, is this our Kelsey?
Hi, Georgette.
Phenomenal.
It was really
Continued success. Knock it out of the park.
Thank you, Alan. It's so good to see you.
You too. We'll keep in touch.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, Kels. Thanks, everybody, for joining today. Thank you, Kelsey Wang. Tune into The Young and the Restless weekdays on CBS. If you ever go to New York City, I encourage you, like Kelsey said, check out an On Location Tours tour. Go to onlocationtours.com. Don't miss next Wednesday's show when actress Ariana Munker joins me live on August 10th. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do so down below. Turn on the notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. And don't forget, if you like to listen to The Locher Room on your favorite streaming platform, just search The Locher Room and download an audio podcast. Thank you to all of you for the messages celebrating my 300th episode. Again, I couldn't have done it without all of you. Have a great weekend, everybody, and please stay safe.